25,534. That's the number of Americans who died, so that the document we celebrate on the 4th of July would not just be words on parchment. That's not a rounded estimate. That's the number given in Howard Peckham's 1974 book, The Toll of Independence, which is still the most thorough accounting historians have ever done of how Americans died in the Revolutionary War. Let's walk through that number today. 8,600 died in actual combat. That includes battles, musket fire, cannonballs, the dramatic deaths people picture when they hear the word war. About 10,000 more died in camp of disease, dysentery, typhus, bad food, cold, and wounds that turned septic because nobody knew about germs yet. More were killed in camp than in battle by far. About 8,500 died as prisoners of war, most of them on British prisoner ships in New York Harbor. These ships were one of the worst chapters of the Revolutionary War, and almost nobody talks about them. Men were packed below decks in conditions so foul that prisoners died by the thousands just from being on board. The HMS Jersey is the most famous of these ships, and estimates are that prisoners died in the thousands alone on that ship. 25,534, spread across 8 years of war, from 1775 to 1783. The American population at the time was around 2.5 million, so roughly 1 out of every 100 Americans died so that our country could exist. If you scale that up to today's population, that would be more than 3 million Americans dying to start a country. That's the cost. Some of the signers of the Declaration of Independence paid personally too. There's a popular essay floating around online that exaggerates what happened to them. Here's what's actually documented. 56 signers died during the years of the war. None of them died from wounds inflicted by the British. One signer, Button Gwinnett of Georgia, died from wounds, but those wounds were from a duel with a fellow American officer in May of 1777, not from the British. A number of signers suffered serious property losses. Carter Braxton of Virginia was a wealthy planter and shipowner. His ships were swept off to sea by the British Navy. He sold his home and his land to pay his debts. He died a poor man. Francis Lewis of New York had his Long Island estate raided by the British. His wife was taken prisoner. She was in poor health at the time and never fully recovered. She died a few years later. These are the real costs. They don't need to be embellished. The truth of what these men risked is enough. They put their fortunes, their real families on the line when they put their names on that parchment. I served over 10 years in the Air Force. I was in Bosnia, Afghanistan, Iraq, and many other deployments. I lost people I knew. I've stood at funerals at Arlington conducted by men and women in white gloves in a uniform I wore, handing folded flags to wives, parents, and children. I'm not going to talk politics, but I'll tell you this. Every generation has paid the price for what 1776 set in motion. Every generation. The names change, the wars change, the reasons people say change. The flag-draped caskets, they don't change. The cookout on the 4th has a tab. The tab is 25,534 at the founding, plus every American who has died in uniform ever since. So for tomorrow, look up one specific person who died in the service of our country, one name, from any war. Read their story. Take a minute and let that name register in your head before the fireworks on the 4th. Tomorrow we'll close out the week with a question Benjamin Franklin was asked at the end of the Constitutional Convention in 1787. His answer is what makes what we've talked about this week matter. Have a great day.